All right, looks like we're back. Sorry for the inconvenience. We're going to start from the beginning so that we can make sure everybody sees everything that we have going on. So I'm going to start the screen share. We're going to go back to the beginning. And we're sorry for everybody who was on the line. What we'll do is we'll send you a recording. If you need to go, you can rewatch it from there. It'll be clean all the way. So let's get started. So you're joining us. We're going to do a webinar. It's a practical guide to church website features. We're going to be looking at what features your church website needs. I'm AJ Finlayson, and this is Bo is joining me. Say hey, Bo.
Greetings.
And our Twitter feed, our handles are down there at the bottom. And there's the hashtag MonkDev. I know some of you have used that already, so please feel free to shout out to us. So here's the agenda again. You can see we've got a lot to cover, so we're going to try and jump in and get going. So we've got Group Finder, Staff Filters and Search, Live Stream, Mega Navigation, Event Registration, Campus Selector, Online Giving, and Sermon Filters. So a lot to cover, and let's get started. So the first feature we're going to look at is a small group finder. What this allows you to do is have low barrier to entry, so people can visit your website, see all the groups that you have, and actually click and start joining, sending emails to the leader and all that kind of thing. You also have the ability to filter, so you can select different things. So you can make it so that people can select by life stage, by Bible study type. So anything, that's really up to you to kind of go in and change. And you can categorize it in a clear way so people know where to get started and they get the information so they can get involved in your church. So here's an example. This is from pray.org, Providence Baptist. They have a life class finder. Now, life classes for them happen on Sundays during or between services. So you can select which service you go to and filter all the classes by that. You can filter a class by a topic. So those are sometimes Bible study, other times they're on divorce. So however, whatever classes or groups are meeting, you can kind of filter and find one that's right for you. And then they have life stages. And so this shows you, there's singles and 55 plus, there's engaged couples, and so you can filter all the different groups that are happening and meeting at Providence Baptist and find one that fits your current needs. And it gives you the times and the classrooms, but if you click on it, what ends up happening is it takes you to another page. And on this page, it's got important information. So it tells you what time, the location, who the leader is, gives you their contact information, lets you know if there's childcare, and it also gives you a little bit of a description about the class. And then on the far side, you can get the directions, and it shows you how to get connected in the class. And you can also email the leader. So Bo, from a functionality standpoint, what does this feature allow churches to do?
Yeah, also just backing up just one step, oftentimes life groups or small groups are one of the most important health indicators at a church. So the ability to present a clear, functional, very usable way to find out about life groups, and not just one big list of stuff where you're expecting your users just to find things out just by scrolling and scrolling and scrolling. That functionality-wise, that is really caring for and nurturing the user to segment the classes that they'd likely be looking for based on demographic and location. So I'll just say that, right here what we're looking at as well is something that pray.org really focused in on, which is a very prominent call to action buttons, and standardizing that. Way too often we see call to actions buried within the actual page copy, and in just plain text hyperlinks. And so their styling here is great. Yeah, that's
okay. Great. So there you go. There's the group finder, that feature, that functionality. The next one we're going to move into is the staff page. And with the staff page, this is actually, in the lead up to the webinar, I shared that we're going to show you ways to optimize the fourth most visited page on your website. And that is your staff page. And it's actually behind your home page, events, and sermons. So it's one of the pages that people really go to. And they're going there in the hopes of finding information. That information they're looking for is contact information. If you have a larger staff, you want to be able to filter it and search so that people can find, if they want to find information about the youth ministry, they can filter and find who is in charge of the youth ministry. You also have inviting photos, and these photos help people connect with your staff before they even get a chance to meet them in person. And another thing is social connection. A lot of pastors and church leaders want to connect with people on social media. They want to start engaging with them and really creating relationships online. And having the ability to have your Twitter handle and or this little Twitter link right there links out to this pastor's Twitter account. So overall, they're able to engage online, and all the information that you need to contact the staff is here in one place. So let's dive in and look at an example of that a little bit bigger. So you can filter the categories for the staff and find the pastoral staff, ministry leaders, and you can also search. So if hey, Ryan is in charge of some ministry, I really need to connect with him. You type in Ryan's name and you'll get a list of just staff people with the name Ryan, and it'll help you kind of figure out who you want to connect with. Hey, Bo, and we also have a thing that we share is a lot, the reason that it might be the fourth most visited staff page is that the staff are coming to look at pictures of themselves. Is that something that you've also heard?
It's always a joke, but a lot of times when we're actually tracking where traffic comes from, it's really common to set up filters that eliminate all of the internal church IP addresses in the analytics data. So we could find out really quick if it goes from like the top traffic page to 20th. But the vast majority, obviously, we say that kidding, but vast majority of people coming here, of your visitors coming here, we're finding that traffic tends to skew to unique visitors, people that have never been to your site before. So just thinking in their mind, they're looking for, really stories of who you guys are, what you're about, really humanizing the staff there.
Yeah, and I know some churches have it so that if you clicked on the pastor's image, you would get a little brief bio, and this allows your church members who, and especially at larger churches, to connect with your staff on a personal level that they might not be able to. And then that way when they actually meet the staff person, they can share, oh, I love how you met your wife. That was described in your bio. That's a really great story. And you can start connecting, and they can start connecting with you as actual people. All right, we're going to move into the next feature that church websites are using. A lot of churches are looking for ways to disciple people anywhere in the world. They want their church to have a broader focus, and so a global focus, and sharing and spreading the gospel. Part of that is connecting with homebound as well. So people who are homebound, sick, ill, if they need to, they can be connected with your church through a live stream experience. You also can brand the experience. A lot of live stream players don't allow you for branding. So you're in a box and you see all the stuff around that isn't related to your church. And it's just a missed opportunity when you have a live stream kind of embedded in your website as part of your website. You get to brand the entire experience, and you get to share more information to try and get people more connected at your church. Another thing that's great about a live stream is you can have social media integration. So you can have a Twitter feed on the side, and that could be rolling through, and people could be commenting as the live stream is happening. So let's dive in a little bit more, and we can kind of see. This is Port City Church, and they have a live stream, and you can see how they're using different sections. So, Bo, is there anything you see that kind of stands out to you in this page?
Yeah, I think Port City has really thought through what their visitors, they've thought through critical pieces of content that their visitors, while they're viewing a live stream, would need. So you could see prominent I need prayer buttons, questions, give online, a way for them to interact while the stream's going on. So that's all great stuff. They've really thought through who's watching this. There also, let me just, AJ mentioned this a little bit. There's really two strategies that we talk about when we're talking about live stream. One is the live stream is a supplement to what you guys do. So a lot of people are out and they're not able, for some reason, they're out of town, or they're not able to make the service that Sunday, and it's a supplement to your existing members. And then a lot of times in that as well, it's a good first, dip your toe in the water, see what the preaching, see what the experience is about as well. So that's one strategy. The other is a full a belief that it's more of like a church campus, an online church campus, and so the functionality, the strategy there would look a lot different than the supplement. So I don't believe we have that the example queued up for what online church looks like in this example, but just two different ways to think about it.
Yeah, and I know when I was working in church communications, we had people that left the area, but they loved our church, and so having the recordings and the live stream allowed them to stay connected to the church body that they grew up in, or that they loved hearing and learning about. And so this is just another way for your church to connect with those people, and for your ministry to have a broader presence online. All right, the next thing we're going to get into is mega navigation. One of the things we like about it, and it can help churches, is it provides context for navigation items. You can use images and icons to draw people to critical next steps, and in that, again, you can highlight important items. So we've also written a blog post, and we released it. It's a great reference for churches that are rocking mega navigations. We'll tweet that out after the webinar, so you can go ahead and read that. You can see how they're using it and why it's effective. So let's get a little bit in here. So again, we're at Port City with this one. This is their next steps. So they provide context, so they kind of describe what next steps are. They share the different types of next steps. So there's learning together and growing together. So the next steps, getting involved in a small group, becoming a leader, and then if you look at the far end, you'll see that they have buttons and the star there. These are critical next steps. These are steps that they want people to take to become more involved in their church. And so volunteer opportunities and baptism, those are what they're hoping to push people to, and it stands out in the navigation. You can see it, and it's clear where most people should be going. Bo gave me the thumbs up, so I don't think he needs to add anything to that, which is always good. So we'll move on to the next feature, and this is event registration. One of the things that people are starting to expect, a lot of other websites allow for event registration, and I'm talking outside the church. It's easy, it's simple, you can register for events. Another feature we're going to talk about is online giving, and people are expecting these features from pretty much any website. They think it's just standard at this point. So what this allows you to do is take reservations at any time, so you don't have to have a staff and a clipboard. One of the fun things we always had on Friday was how many clipboards could we find, because someone took them and we didn't know where they are to have people sign up. Whereas with an online event registration, you don't have that. You can also get a list of attendees. So if they fill out this form, that drops into a back end somewhere, and you can export that list. So you don't have to figure out someone's handwriting to see, kind of, okay, is that an R or is that an N? Is that a U? You get their actual information because they typed it in. It also frees up staff time, so staff doesn't have to be transcribing handwritten lists over to Excel spreadsheets so that you can use them to do whatever else your church is looking to do, whether that's contact them, keep them informed about upcoming things. And one of the nice things about the event registration is you can set required fields so that you get all the information you need. So in this case, this is a Kindred Church. They've got Vacation Bible School. I know a lot of you either are in the prongs of that, you're engaging with all the little kids running around and enjoying learning about God, or you're about to. And with this, they had it set up so that people could register online, and they got all the information. So the child's first name, the last name. If they needed the mother's and father's name, they could get that as well. So, Bo, do you have anything to add about events registration? Have you seen any churches that are using it really well on a large scale?
Yeah, event registration is always one of those pieces of functionality that churches may have a collection of systems to do different things. A lot of times you have your internal room reservation tool that has ability to communicate what you're doing church-wide. We've seen a lot of discussion being centered around what type of things do we, what type of content do we have out there on the website all the time? Should we just, dump the entire church calendar of that we have up there, or is there some protocols for, do we not post forever recurring events here? Specifically talking about event registration and not the promo, a lot of times there are combinations of systems, like not to mention any names, but other systems that churches use that they may have to link out for the call to action, and so it becomes imperative to think through how that integrates with the website. So is it this pop-up iframe? Is it going to a landing page for that event? Or is there more complex integration involved with that? So those are all different things to look into as far as event registration, and those are all things that play into the usability of this. Actually, they've already spent a lot of time looking. The visitor spent time looking, and they want to register, and that process and that efficiency, the usability has to carry on through the entire workflow.
Yeah, and I think when Bo mentioned that, they've already looked at the information, and now they've one of the things that a lot of churches do is you have to register in person. They've already looked at that information, they're ready to make a decision, and now they've got to wait until Sunday. And who knows if they forget, did they not have the money? So there's different things to do with that, to think about. But having the event registration...
One last thing about this too, since it deals with forms, I've seen a lot of churches have these call to action forms include things that they don't need at that time. So you'll see like a 20 field form when they really only need to capture 4 fields at that time, and they could capture the rest of the content at a later time. So just thinking about that too, like what do we actually need right now what can we get and what's more appropriate at another time. So that's the only other thing I'd add.
Yeah, that's great advice. And I think we talked about that in our last ebook, the 7 content games churches must avoid. So if you're wondering kind of what content you should have around it and what forms should look like, I recommend downloading that ebook, and we'll have that posted on Twitter after we get done with the webinar. So the next thing we're going to look at is multi-site campuses, and this is a selector, and what it allows you to do is highlight each campus. People can access worship times, and they can get a map with directions. So I think it'll become more clear when I click to the next page and we can actually see an example of this. This is Grace Church, and they've got 2 campuses right now, and you can see when you hover, if you were to hover over the different items on their website, this pops down and it gives you everything you need. You got the service times, you've got the campus pastor, you can connect with them through email, Facebook, you've got the email for the church, you've got their phone number, you've got their address, you can click get directions, and you can also go to locate information. So it's a way for you to have a cohesive single hub for people to go to if you're multi-site, and then displays campus-specific information so that if people want to get into that campus, they can. So, yeah, not too much more to add. I think it becomes apparent. One of the things, this is mostly for multi-site, but I could see a one-campus church use this. So instead of having it go over the campus names, it might be locations and services, and then that pop-down would drop down and show all the information about the church and make it real simple for people to take their next step from that with either contacting the church or visiting. So I think we'll move on to the next one from here. This feature is online giving. So with online giving, Bo kind of alluded to it, there's some systems that you integrate with, and they can make this process very difficult. When you do have online giving, you want to make it simplified so that people don't have to fill out 8, 10, 12 sections at a time in order to make a gift to your church. So you want to try and find a solution that helps minimize the number of steps, the number of actions that a person has to take in order to make a gift. For churches, there's reoccurring gifts. When you do have an online giving platform, it allows people to set up reoccurring gifts. This can help with your planning. So church planning, you will have a baseline at this point of how much money is sort of coming in. You'll be able to plan out month by month because you know on average we get reoccurring gifts every month of this baseline number. And anything above that you can kind of use, but you can kind of plan your budgets, you can make better decisions, and overall it allows you to be good stewards of the resources that God is providing you. It also allows you to accept gifts from anywhere. So my example from the live stream, we had people that were across the country. I think the term is snowbirds. So when it was snowing on the East Coast, they'd fly out and spend a couple months in San Diego. Beautiful weather. And when they were back on the East Coast, they still wanted to give because they felt this was the church, their church home. And instead of having to write checks and send those in the mail, they were able to jump online and do online giving so that they could make their gifts to their church. And here we just, make it easy. So the amount, set where it's going, the note. You just want to try and find a solution that is simple, easy to use, and doesn't complicate and get in the way of making online giving accessible to everyone. Do you have anything to add, Bo, or have you seen? No, he says we're good with that. So here's another feature. A lot of churches that have a content management system, this is really one thing you should be looking for. The ability to filter sermons, because it allows people to easily find sermons. You can organize and categorize them. I know a lot of churches are doing sermon series, so you want to make sure all the series sermons are grouped together. If someone misses a sermon, they can do that. Or if a small group remembers a series and they want to go back through it together, they can select all the sermons in that series and kind of walk through it. And it's really an online discipleship tool. It allows people to actively take control of their own discipleship. They can. Let me move to the next slide so you can kind of see what I'm talking about here. So you've got series, you've got categories, you've got preaching pastors. This is a multi-site church. This is Eagle Brook, and they've got a bunch of different pastors who preach. So this allows people to filter by the preacher that was preaching and get messages from him. One of the things that I've also seen this is multi-site campuses. They will go ahead and assign sermons to the specific campuses. That way, if you are at a campus, instead of seeing all these messages from every campus, so if you got 5 campuses on a Sunday, seeing 5 separate messages from the different pastors, you're able to filter and say, I only want to see messages from my campus because I want to learn and see what I missed. And that's where the date also comes in. So, Bo, have you seen anything interesting with sermon filters and the ability, kind of functionality, what that adds?
Yeah, in planning a lot of the discussions we I have during just working through all the sermon stuff is what kind of promo views do you want, or will serve you guys best. So just to think through that, there's a series view, a series archive. There's a series detail. So you could see all the series that have ever been preached, and I know that depends on whether the church. It depends on what the the sermon strategy is. If you guys do a lot of series, if there are series, are they on are they 12-week series? Are they 2-week series? All that comes into play, but just the basic views are series views, a series archive where you're not going into every single sermon that's ever been preached in like a date archive. You're just seeing all the series. And then once you click on a series, there is a series detail where you see all of the sermons that have been preached in that series. So that's a series detail. Then you click on that. I know we're getting into levels and levels, but you click on a call to action is a series, a sermon, and that's a sermon detail. So you get to another view. So all of these different views, all to say, some churches want a lot more promotion of their series, others don't. But those are the conversations we usually work through. Will a simple simple sermon archive that loads up all of the sermons in line to a player suffice, or is there a lot more needs as far as promoting those?
Yeah, and so that gets into kind of where your church is and what your church is hoping to do. I know the church I was working at, we had 5 years worth of sermons online. So 5 times 52, you start getting into a very large number of sermons, and they're each on different topics. And so being able to filter and find a topic that is meaningful to you. So if you're going through depression, being able to filter categories and find sermons on depression, being able to listen to those sermons and gain insight into what God's Word says about this topic is very helpful. So that they're not trying to randomly search your site to try and maybe hit a sermon. They're able to filter and find exactly what they're looking for. That way God can work in their lives, and everything that is involved with that happens. Okay, so that was the last one. I wanted to give you a chance to see our Twitter profile are there, so you can go ahead and ask any questions. I'm going to be online after this for a little while answering your questions. I also wanted to make sure you saw that we have a free ebook that goes into these a little bit more in detail. It also has a checklist, so if you're wondering, does this feature, do I really need mega navigation? You can go through that. There's a list of questions. You can check those off, and you can start to make decisions about what features you actually need. And I think one of the hardest parts is, for me, I always had the eyes bigger than my stomach, so I always wanted more and more features. And it's important to find the features that are actually going to help your church. And I think, Bo, when you're working with people in content strategy, this is what you're helping them do. You're helping them kind of prioritize where they're going. Is that correct?
That is correct. And a lot of it centers around just a statement that if everything's a priority online, nothing becomes a priority. So really setting those, what does success look like? That's what we're working through when we do that.
And so we've got the hashtag there as well at Monk Dev. So if you want to connect with us, you can either do me directly or go ahead and use that hashtag, and I'll be answering questions probably for the next hour or two. And we're always watching that, so if you're watching a recording of this and you have a question, feel free to hit that hashtag. We'll get back to you as soon as we can. And then this is the last thing. One of the things, if you're a client of Monk Development, you're using our Ecclesia 360 product, we've thought a lot about ministry-focused layouts. So these layouts that we're sharing and a few others, we've thought through and worked with a lot of churches to figure out what is the best, what do churches actually need. And a part of that we've distilled and we've made layouts, and these layouts are built from the ground up. We're using best practices, and they help achieve ministry results. And so we'll send a link out after this webinar as well. So I've got a couple different things to send out so that you can see the ministry layouts. You can get in there and play with them and see if they're a right fit for your church. So just wanted to thank everybody for joining us. Oh, we do have a question. In addition to filtering sermons by campus, can you filter by ministry, a main service or youth service? The answer to that is yes, you can. You can set up any type of filters that you'd like. So you go ahead and set it up. So let's say you have, you've got your youth. You could even have a contemporary and a traditional worship service, and you could record those separately and put them online, and people could filter by them. So really the filtering is up to you on how you want to go about doing that. It's very simple to set up. You just either set by category and you kind of go from that, or you can have custom filter options, and those allow you to kind of set it up for yourself. I also had another question. This one was about small group engagement. And I think when we were talking about the small group finder, what that allowed, I actually talked with Providence Baptist last week, and we were talking about what that allowed them to do. And they said people are able to find the groups that they want to get involved in on their own, and staff are being contacted saying, I want to join your group, I want to be a part of this group. So it really is empowering people to take and use, to become involved in your church. So you're providing them with information so that they can take that next step. And the easier you make that, the lower barriers you put in place to have that happen, the more likely they are to go ahead and get involved in your church. And so that's where kind of that type of feature, the small group finder, eliminates some of the things that people would have to do where, they have to call a ministry leader. That ministry leader needs to either be in the office at that time or listen to the recording, get back to them. Are you at home? You're not sure if you're at home. They might leave you another message. Then you're playing phone tag back and forth. So being able to find a group online, to be able to contact the leader, or if you have the event registration, you could sign up for your group. So there's that type of functionality where you can get two features working together to really ease ministry and help people assimilate into your church. There was another question we had. Let me see. The person was asking, how do I help people find things online? And so that's a very broad question, but digging into it a little deeper, I found out they had a lot of content. So the filters that we were talking about for sermons, they don't have to be limited to that. You could have those filters on articles, blog posts, and what that allows people to do is get connected deeper into your ministries, find the information they want. So if, for instance, you have information for parents, so youth, I guess, follow up to the Sunday school. Parents could filter that. They could find what they're looking for. They could get the Bible verses. So really, what you're doing is you're empowering people to take action and grow their own spiritual life. So you're providing the resources. They're filterable. People can find them. I think one of the churches that does this really well is the Village Church out in Texas. Their resource page is pretty loaded with content. They're producing a lot of stuff. But the way they've gone about thinking through filters, categories, it makes it very accessible so you can find the information you need. And I think that's it. Just want to check one last time. If anybody has anything that they have a question with, feel free to share it real quick and we'll get back to you. All right, it looks like we are done with the questions. Like I said, I'm going to be online. Go ahead and hit me up if you need anything. And thank you for joining us and being a part of this webinar.
Thank you, guys. Yep.
All right, great. You guys have a great day.